What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and I am back with another post show for the PFL, and this time it's PFL for 2024, which went down on June 13th, 2024, on the in the Mohegan Sun Arena in Uncasville, Connecticut. And again, it was moving night, you would say, in two of the best PFL divisions, with the heavyweights and the women's flyweight divisions. The semi-finals, as I like to call them, I think, what do they call them? The playoffs have been decided, and we have some very, very interesting matchups. Teammates taking each other on. We have, I would say, the four, although, I think there's five really good women in it, and four of the five got through, so we'll tell you at the end of the review who didn't get through. But it was a very good night, I think, for PFL, who they maybe wanted to get through. Now maybe the main event especially maybe didn't go the way that everyone would have hoped, nearly, apart from the winner. But yeah, overall a pretty good night. The main event was the only real fight that, there was one of those, after the first round, it didn't really matter who won or lost. But at the same time, the fight kind of stayed very competitive anyway, so it didn't really matter. To be honest, now, you get one of those fights every year, or maybe one every 2 years, but this one it wasn't a classic fight by any means, but it was a better fight than you would have imagined in that situation. There was some great comebacks on the card. There was some very good knockouts, very good finishes on the card as well. We'd no submission. We'd one submission. We'd one very good submission, actually, and that was the very good comeback. So we will get to that as well. But let's start with the main event I was talking about, and that was in the heavyweight division between Valentin Moldavsky and Linton Vassell. And I'll run through the fight in a second, but basically the situation coming in here was Linton Vassell needed to get the first round finish to progress. This was the trilogy between both of them. Obviously, Moldavsky had won in his first outing, and Vassell hadn't. In terms of the PFL season, Vassell lost the first fight between the two and won the second fight between the two. So in many ways, it was a lot of people have kind of criticized some of the matchmaking, but I think this especially was good matchmaking. There's nothing wrong with this. A lot of people were criticizing the Decheva fight. I don't think there was anything wrong with that, and they're kind of saying they've set it up for the semi-final. I actually don't think there's anything wrong with that either. I think that's a valid way of doing it, unless look, we know the good fighters in that division, and I think they lined them up well. But anyway, that's another discussion for another part of this show, or maybe another day. But this main event. It was always going to reach a point that if the first round ended, which obviously it did, as we know, it was going to kind of take a different look, and it did, but not in the way you would imagine. Like, they didn't start fighting safe or anything like that. So let's get into the fight, and let's run through the 3 rounds. I do think Moldavsky. So I was speaking last week about Moldavsky and the way he approached it, and thinking, like, was he going for a more get the fight finished quick approach, because I have a fight coming up, and finishing fights as he did in the first one, or is this just against a good matchup the last time out? And maybe it was a little bit of both, but as things played out here, that didn't really come into the equation, because he knew he just had to get through the first round to get through. So anyone in that situation would fight a little bit slower in the first round, maybe go for it in the second, which kind of, arguably did happen, but we'll get to that. But a very slow start from both guys, slow on the outside. Vassell landed a leg kick, and then there was a right hand by Moldavsky, and then Linton was rocked a little bit. So Moldavsky was being a bit careful, but also landing his shots. There was no doubt about it. He was still throwing his shots. Moldavsky was landing some nice jabs. A nice low kick by Linton came after that, and then there was kind of the high-low from Moldavsky. Beautiful work to the body, and then coming over the top from the head, and he added in a low kick and another after that. The big shot of that round, well, the biggest legal shot of that round was a right hand from Moldavsky, and then there was a takedown, which was followed by the big low blow. So this low blow was literally 5 minutes of rest with 52 seconds, I think, left on the clock. And Moldavsky was hit low, and he rested, and then he was down. He was down pretty bad. Now, did he play it up a little bit because he knew he'd have, the air to give a good 52 seconds because he knew he needed to finish the fight? The cynic in me would say yes, and also I hope he did, because that's the smartest play possible. So no matter what happened, he was good and rested by the time the fight started again, and he went all out for it, but he just couldn't get it, and Moldavsky was kind of too smart in. So I was kind of thinking, what's going to happen here? Second round starts, Moldavsky gets a takedown, and you're kind of thinking, oh God, this could be a tough one now. Maybe Vasyl won't have his heart in or anything, but no, he kept fighting. He was absolutely trying his best. But this was I don't have much notes for this round even. There was no ground and pound. Vasyl got up at one stage, but he couldn't escape the clinch. There was very little on the ground. Very little in the clinch until Vasyl. Actually, Moldavsky landed one knee first, and then Vasyl two massive knees, and then a third. And then he threw a knee that dropped Moldavsky hard. So at that point, he was away with the round. He landed on top, landed a bit of ground and pound, and it was absolutely 1-1 at that stage. And then we went into the third, and this third round, I'll tell you what, there was barely a punch in it. It was so close. All transitions, all fighting, both of them tired. Moldavsky more so than Vasyl, which if and I said this coming in, but if anyone watched the first two fights, you would have been shocked that was the case here, because Vasyl did not look like he had the gas in him for this sort of fight. But he looked it here. He landed a few small shots to start off, did Vasyl. Then he went for a takedown, but it got into a clinch. Moldavsky fell. Vasyl landed on top, took his back. Then he fell off. Then Moldavsky landed on top, and then Linton Vasyl reversed it into the half guard. So transition after transition after transition, nearly got into the mounted Vasyl. Again, that was the start of another, just a boatload of transitions before they got up to the clinch. Linton went for the Kimura, but it was no good, and Moldavsky landed on top. They got up, some knees from Vasyl. Were the biggest shots of the round probably again, but not massive. Moldavsky got a late takedown, and I wrote after it in my notes, it was just a knotting round. The Kimura attempt from Vasyl, the few knees from Vasyl, was that enough? If I was scoring it, I would have scored it for Vasyl, and that's exactly how the judges scored it. Well, it was a split decision, so 29-28. Two judges gave it to Vasyl, and one judge gave it to Moldavsky, so Vasyl ends up getting the win there. When I'll run through the finale, or if I remember, or the finals, who will be in the finals after we go through the rest of the card. So if you're listening to this and you just want to know spoilers or whatever, we can do that here. So we'll go fight by fight. The co-main event was Dakota Ditcheva against Chelsea Hackett. And, for the first time in her career, well, actually, she's had an amateur if you watched her Shauna Bannon fight, and I can't remember exactly all of her pro careers, or her pro fights, but there's no doubt about it that Chelsea Hackett came here to fight, and she did without a shadow of a doubt, but to no avail in the end. Ditcheva started off with some low kicks, knocked her down with her right hand hard pretty early, hurt with a knee, got into the clinching, and there was a kind of a long clinch, but Ditcheva was landing some lovely knees in the clinch. Good takedown defense from Dakota Ditcheva as well, and this is where Hackett was, she was really fighting, she was really trying her best to stick in it here, and she did, but a long clinch for maybe a couple of minutes. They exchanged knees inside. There was a nice knee from Hackett. There's a lot of clinched knees end of the night, and there's actually, I think the Ditcheva actually hit an elbow, and I just remembered elbows are not allowed in PFL. I'm like, wait, hold on, I always forget elbows aren't allowed in PFL until I'm in the middle of the show. But anyway, Ditcheva landed some shots in the escape, lovely shots, and then she landed a teep to the face, moved the southpaw and landed a left hand, and then when she got closer again, there was a bit of a clinch, and she threw these knees inside that absolutely hurt her to the body. And then there was a vicious, 5, 6, 7, 8 punch combination. The last of which was, maybe the third last of which was a punch to the solar plexus that just caused Hackett to give all that fight she had in her the ghost, basically. It was, all that fight was gone. She turned to the side, fell to the ground, and gave way to one of the best up-and-coming fighters in the world in Dakota Ditcheva. An absolutely brilliant finish and a brilliant win for Dakota Ditcheva. Again, against a good opponent. You know, Hackett's record isn't brilliant, and I think it's like 4-3 now, but she's not a terrible fighter by any means, but much bigger fish to fry in the upcoming matches for Ditcheva, which obviously, as I said, we will get to towards the end. I guarantee you I'll forget to tell you these finale matches now, but I won't. The next fight in on the docket was... Actually, it was listed as Carmouche Watanabe. I'm going to give you that because I know I'll forget it if I don't. So we will. Goltsov Santos was next. I'll come back to that in a second. We'll go for Carmouche Watanabe first because this was, in my opinion, fight of the night. I had Liz down 2 rounds, as did all 3 of the judges. Now, some people online disagreed with me when I tweeted that out. I think I tweeted after the first round and they were disagreeing with me. But I think maybe a lot of people maybe had bet on this Carmouche, and this one she was... I don't think there's any other opinion. Only she was down 2 rounds here. To be honest, I think it was definite, and we'll run you through those 2 rounds. So, kind of tried to take down immediately. This was actually, I loved this first round because this was, you know, when you start watching MMA, right, and you realize what the difference kind of say between MMA and boxing or kickboxing or Muay Thai, as Andy Shepherd called it, is like the excitement of the ground exchanges. And I was really excited by these ground exchanges. And you know what? This is a weird one, and this is the most hipster thing of all time. But there was Kana Watanabe tried to take Liz Carmouche down, and Liz sprawled. And she slid back to the cage and was there. I don't know how long she was there, maybe 30 seconds. It felt like about 4 minutes or something like that. It was just so good. I was like, what's going to happen here? Because Liz didn't want to move. Kind of knew that she was kind of in on a good thing here. It was just like a really precarious position in the grappling realm, like old school kind of chocolate L kind of sprawl. Really good stuff from both of them. And Liz Carmouche had to take a chance to get out. You know, she was in that sprawl. She kind of turned off to the right, pushed Watanabe away, and Watanabe kind of got her again, but Liz did manage to kind of get free. As they stood up, Liz landed a couple of knees and a couple more after that. Kana tripped her and got on top then. Liz went for an armbar, a Kimura, a triangle. None of them were even close to being in. And then Kana was on top. So the knees from Liz were the best shots up until that point, and you could probably say Liz was winning it. But in the last minute of that round, I think Watanabe left, no doubt whatsoever. This is the type of fight I always talk to judges about, and they always say, right, if it's a close round, if someone is 1 or 2 punches ahead and you get a minute on top, you better make that minute count. And you know what they say? Make it easy on the judges, right? And that's exactly what Watanabe did. The last 5 seconds of the fight, of the round 1, she landed 5 hard hammer fists. And that, I'm telling you, that's how you win rounds. That is how you win rounds. Now, she landed in the 40, 50 seconds before that. She landed some shots as well. So I think she probably evened it up with that and definitely took it with those last 5 rounds, for 5 shots of the round. So I think the judges got that 100% right. I think that's extremely good judging. The same thing happened at the start of the second round. There was the takedown attempt and the sprawl, but Liz got up quicker this time. Kana tried again. And held on, but Liz ended up taking her back. Kana gets on top then. She went for the arm triangle attempt, which was very, very, very close. When you're talking about effective grappling, this is what effective grappling looks like. Almost tapped. There was a rear naked choke, try late. I think if she had another few seconds at that, it could have been deep as well. Not saying Liz would have tapped or anything like that, but again, 100% a Watanabe round. She was deep in that arm triangle, and she won that round without a shadow of a doubt. The third round then, Kana came out hard, but Liz came out hard too, and she was just refusing to give in. She pushed Watanabe off at one stage and just bludgeoned her with a right hand against the cage, like punched her head into the cage. And then there was a few, that actually happened like maybe 2-3 times in this round. And it was just like Liz Carmouche was like, I'm not losing this. I'm just not losing this. Kana was hurt. She was in the reverse crucifix then. Liz stood up then at one stage. Liz landed some big shots. Didn't Canna went for a takedown, and Liz got her in a guillotine. Canna landed on top. The guillotine was no good. Got into half guard, then into guard, and Liz landed these two big punches from the bottom. But Canna landed a bit of ground and pound in. You're thinking here, there's 30 seconds left. Liz is not winning a 10-8 here, renting. This is going to be 29-28 to Watanabe. And then, they said 8 seconds to go. I said 11, but it was 10. It was 100% 10 seconds to go. Liz Carmouche, well, a few seconds before that, Liz Carmouche got the armbar on, and there was the tap game with 10 seconds to go. So, comeback of the year contender. I would even say a submission of the year contender. Like Liz Carmouche, the champion over in Bellator, going for it, trying to get to the next round and trying to get the million here, pulls it out of the bag and wins the fight with 10 seconds to go with a beautiful armbar. So fantastic stuff from Liz Carmouche. Fight at night, absolutely brilliant fight from start to finish. If you're someone who likes the grappling realm of mixed martial arts, you love this fight. A great fight. I will move on. Then we had the heavyweight fight between Denis Goltsov and Thiago Santos. This one was very, very quick. Denis came out and he landed a lovely jab. Santos landed a lovely calf kick and then two lovely body kicks. And I was kind of thinking to myself, oh, Santos he's looking on it here. To be honest, I haven't seen him looking like this for a while. But then he got dropped with like this check hook. And I was kind of thinking to myself at that stage, like, that's not a great sign for a guy like that who's always had, a pretty good chin. Denis got on top, got into the mount, and landed some great ground and pound, which doesn't help after you've already been dropped. And I don't know that the commentary kind of see it. Now, I'm recording this literally straight away after, so I haven't seen a replay or anything, but from my eyes, live, it looked like a lovely check hook that he caught him with. And the reaction to it kind of, sold that as well. He takes the back. They did get up, but he mat returned him then, did Goltsov. Lovely ground and pound. And he finished it soon after. I think it was Murgliata stepped in it was Darren Murgliata stepped in to stop it. So he got him against the cage. Kind of, he didn't necessarily flatten him out, but I think he pulled out one of the legs, flattened one of the knees, and hit him with a load of ground and pound against the cage and finished it in 2:22 of round one. So a lovely finish there for Denis Goltsov. Thiago Santos, it's 1-7-1 no contest in his last 9 fights. It's going to be tough to come back from that, to be honest. Then we Talia Santos against Jenna Bishop. And I'll tell you what, this was a very, very close fight, again, a split decision. The first 2 rounds, Santos started out for the head kick, and Bishop was just making it hard on her. There was a couple of takedowns for Santos. Santos had a long time on top in the second as well, but very close, not much in him. But it was the third round that I think was kind of the separation here. Santos landed a better jab, nice leg kicks in her right hand, and she was looking way more comfortable to me. But at one stage, Bishop dragged her down, got into the mount, got the back going for the rear naked choke. Santos turned around and got into guard, and that was, again, it was 3 rounds of these two are more well matched. And I know there was someone in the comment section last week who said this exact same thing, so shout out to that commenter from the preview video. And he said people are writing Jenna Bishop off. No, I don't think I necessarily wrote Jenna Bishop off, but she did a fantastic job here. She could have won this fight, there's no doubt about it. And a split decision, but Talia Santos ended up winning in the end. We'll talk more about Santos in a second. We talk about the matchups, but I think it was one of those ones she'd be happy to get through it. Happy to get through it. Then we had a heavyweight fight between Olav Popov and Davion Franklin. This was a very, very interesting one. Immediate takedown for Popov, came literally straight across, took him down, up to the clinch, and there was a lovely knee from Franklin. There was a jab from Popov, a left hook from Popov, a right hand, and then a takedown. But Franklin kept getting up, and there was a second takedown attempt, but he kept doing this thing where he kind of flipped him over, and so Popov would take him down, and Franklin would just like literally flip him over, and it was absolutely class. But was it from both of them? Franklin landed a flying knee, and the first one anyway, landed a lovely flying knee, absolutely unbelievable. Then there was a crucifix. He went for the Americana, did Popov. Didn't get it back to the crucifix, and Franklin did a great job. The second one was closer to the fence, and he kicked off the fence and got away as well. So those flips were helping him an awful lot. a late takedown for Popov and into the crucifix again. The second round started with 2 leg kicks from Franklin and a takedown from Popov, but they got up, they got down. There was a bit of ground and pound. Popov was using his cardio, almost took the back at one stage, and there was a long period of the fight on the ground from Popov in that second round, and he definitely took that one. And in the third, Franklin came out swinging, but a quick Popov takedown into side control, and that was kind of that for the fight. He ended up winning the unanimous decision. It was an easy win in the end for Popov. I think Franklin did really well in the first round, trying his best and fighting back. There's only so much, you can fight back against someone like Popov. And then we missed Mr. Legolm against Tyrell Fortune. First round started with a clinch for Fortune, with both throwing knees again. As I said, a lot of knees in the clinch here. Gulm kind of got on the front foot then, whereas Fortune was landing the nice jab, and he was very good off the counter. The counter jab is something you don't, always see. I love it. It's one of my favorite weapons. Ian Gary has a great kind of off the back foot counter jab. But they were both landing, and Gulm kind of took over in at one stage and hurt him a few times. Fortune was covering up. I thought the fight was over. I literally... I was on the phone, or I was sending someone a voice message or something, and I was like, the fight's over. And I kind of looked down, took my notes, wrote the fight is over, and then they were starting the second round. I was like, what's after happening here? So, it must have been the bell or something. Gulm landed hard again at the start of the second. He thought it was over. But he didn't end up getting it, and then Fortune ended up getting on top, landed some ground upon, but Gulm, I think, did enough. And the third Fortune kind of got on top as well, and did his best, but Gulm, Gulm was just not able to, when Fortune got on top, it was a funny one. Gulm is one of these guys that, when it's going well for him, and, you look at Franklin in the last fight, it's not going well for him. He tries his best. Even Vassell. Gulm is one of those guys that when it turns him, like it did in the second and the third round, it's kind of like he finds it very hard to get it back, and he ended up losing the decision here, and Fortune ended up winning it. So, after Fortune should have won at the end of the first. It was fitting, but a good win for Fortune in by decision. Then we had Leroy Joanna against Shannon Young. A surprisingly good fight, to be honest. I wasn't massively looking forward to this one, but it's a very good fight. Joanna dominated early, landing some really good shots and picking them as well, landing some hard shots over and over and over again. Again, there was a bit of a counter jab from Young here that was her only help, really, but not much. Leg kicks from Joanna as well. Late clinch and takedown for her. So a really good, well-rounded performance in round one. It was the same thing for 4 minutes of the second round, and then Young landed a nice combo and takedown, but it wasn't enough. Joanna just faster and more powerful. Dominated again in round 3 into the last 40 seconds, and she almost got subbed. Very, very nearly got subbed. I think one judge gave her 1 round, and the other 2 gave her all 3 rounds. But I think this is the best that Leroy Joanna has ever looked. As a big Game of Thrones fan, as you can see over there, I like the old Arya Stark. She... earlier in her career, I was like, she could go far, maybe, but she kind of flattered the deceived in. But this again, I like Shannon Young. I think she's a good fighter, but it was a good performance from Leroy Joanna, probably the best of her career. And then we had a heavyweight fight between Timothy Johnson and Dylan Marquez, and this was absolute madness. I wrote in my notes that so Johnson did this in 2 weeks' notice, and he came in the shape of Sean Sheehan here. It wasn't great. No, it wasn't not that bad, but I wrote in my notes he tired after 24 seconds, and he really did. But he was trying his best. He was changing stances, reaching in with shots, and I was kind of thinking to myself, this is not going to work. This is going to be very hard, because Marquez was thereabouts. And he did land a couple, but then there was one of the wildest things you'll ever see. There was a massive simultaneous low blow, and what I would nearly class as a knockout. So Johnson got kicked low and Marquez got knocked out. If Johnson had stayed standing and just stood over Marquez, I think the fight would have been stopped. It was that bad of a shot. I think Marquez was badly hurt. If he'd stood up and then went down and landed a few shots, it definitely would have been stopped. Marquez was in a bad way. But the fact that Johnson also kind of got knocked down by the kick in the goalies, the fight was paused. He was given 5 minutes, and they started again. So I don't know who had benefited more, to be honest, but Marquez got dropped again and dropped again. and hurt again, and the fight was eventually stopped at 3:14 of round one. I don't think he was ever right after the initial knockdown, and the fight could have been stopped then. The fight could have been stopped after the next right hand. I think the fight should have been stopped after the next shot. I think it should have been stopped again after the next kind of field of ground and pound. And then it was the next part of ground and pound where it actually was stopped. So this, to me, let me just check the referee, Todd Anderson. Yeah, I don't think Todd Anderson is the best referee, to be honest. And this is one I don't think a lot of people will call late. But this is one where a lot of extra damage was given to a guy who really did not need to take it. Again, we often talk about, look at what happened before. Like, if someone gets dropped hard and basically knocked out, if that happens again, you need to be faster to stop that fight. Don't give him an opportunity to get knocked, an opportunity to get ground and pounded again and again. Not for me. So, but a great win for Timothy Johnson, and he moves into the playoffs, which we'll get to in a second. After that win, it was his first fight, 2 weeks notice, and he's on for the $1 million. Juliana Velasquez then fought Lisa Malden and put on a very good display. She was a bit defensive early, fighting out the southpaw stance as she does, looking for the jab. The first big shot was her left hand with no jab, just a kind of an open left hand. She Lisa landed a lovely body kick then, and she got into the clinch, but Velasquez was winning that clinch. She landed 5 hard shots on the break. Lisa went down. She kind of tripped after the punches, and Valentina was in the guard on top, landing a heavy ground and pound. But they got up. Velasquez, sorry. They got up, and then Velasquez landed some massive combinations, heavy shot late, lovely body kick, and I think she was saved by the bell. In my opinion, was Malden. But it didn't last long in the second round. Hurt to the body, downed, and a ground and pound finish only a minute and a half into the second round. So Velasquez, again, look, I said it last week, Velasquez is a very good fighter, and it's a pity she actually didn't make it into the semi-finals here. And it's a real pity. It is a real pity. But if someone gets injured, you have a great replacement here to come in. She fought, her last 3 fights against Les Carmouche. That's going to make anyone look bad, let's be honest. And she didn't, it's not that she looked bad, but anyone could lose those 3 fights, especially in that division, especially how good Liz has been over that period. So great that she showed the real her again. And look, hopefully she'll be back next year, or maybe come in as a replacement. Some stage, we know the way MMA is. And then there was a non-season fight to start it off where Sumiko Inabe won a split decision over Saraya Okozo. I'll just run you through the fight. Inabe was boxing her up bad for a while. Then there was a clinch. Inabe was landing some combinations and leg kicks, but Saraya was smart and kind of held her into the clinch, but Inabe was winning the clinch positions as well. Some lovely knees inside from Saraya again, loads of knees in that position, and just lots of clinch in the first round. Lovely hard jab from Inabe started the second round. She was more on her bike, and she landed a couple. Her opponent, Saraya Orokozo, landed a couple while chasing her, and she did way better kind of getting into the clinch, but Inabe invariably kind of broke it a few times. But Saraya was landing more punches in this round, and then she started getting the clinch and winning the clinch. But Inabe was kind of still landing. It was a better round for Saraya, but still close. The left hook from Inabe got her back, I think, in the running around throughout the last minute of it. So, close enough round, really close. Could have gone either way. Saraya was throwing it hard at the start of the third, and Inabe more on the outside of the distance now, even further out than she was to start the second, landing the jab. But it actually allowed Saraya to close the distance. I think she was a little bit faster closing the distance, maybe not faster to the punch, but she was faster closing the distance, and she ended up landing a few then. But both they got into a clinch and both landed there. A lovely couple of uppercuts from Inabe, probably the best fights of the round, if not the whole fight. And Inabe was kind of picking her off late, but then Saraya landed a head kick and got a clinch to kind of close it up again. Another close round. There was 600 plus strikes landed in this fight. A very, very interesting fight, and a split decision win for Sumiko Inabe. So I didn't forget. Here is the lineup for the semi-finals. So for the women's flyweights, we have Dakota Dacheva against Jenna Bishop. Great fight. And then Liz Carmouche against Talia Santos. And we have Denis Goltsov against Tim Johnson in the heavyweights, and Popov against Moldavsky. So just maybe, obviously we'll have a breakdown of all this, but for the story of all 4 fights, I suppose, Dakota Dacheva having a step up, Bishop, getting to take all the shine off Dakota. If she wins that, she'll be one of the most talked about prospects in the world. There's no doubt about it. And she will. She did very, very well in her fight against Talia Santos. Split decision. If that fight happened again, would you totally bet against her? I don't think as many people will be betting against her this time. So, Carmouche and Santos, then you could argue like two of the best flyweights in the world. No doubt about it. Two of the top 5 probably flyweights in the world. Carmouche has been the foreign person outside of the UFC for the last few years. Santos, when she was in the UFC, she did very, very well, obviously. And like, you would think the winner of that would be favourite to win it all, even with Dakota Dacheva on the other side of it. But massive fight. And then Goltsov versus Johnson, like, what an opportunity for Johnson. Like, you think his career was nearly at an end when Bellator merged with the PFL, but he got a big opportunity. Whereas Goltsov, again, I know Renan has kind of lined up for Francis Ngannou, but you never know. If Goltsov is the champion and the former champion and the guy who's been around for a long time, he's probably next man up, especially if he wins this. So this is a massive opportunity for him. And then Popov Moldavsky, those are both teammates, Team Fedor. I wonder how that's going to go. I wonder if they'll even agree to the fight, or if that fight will happen, or if it does happen, what are they going to do? Maybe they just go out there and go mad at each other. But it's a good fight though. Popov's wrestling, Moldavsky's kind of striking. Moldavsky, another guy who sometimes fatters to deceive. Again tonight, not his best performance, but it's going to be very interesting, like who mentally approaches that the best way. So 4 very, very interesting fights, and I can't wait for them. But before that, we're back next week. I've already recorded that preview. It will be out here on Sherdog.com, on our YouTube, and everywhere else. So please check that out in the coming days. I will leave it there. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.